season, and I always hit them with a Formic Pro formic acid in the fall. Once I've taken off my supers, and that's been really, that's worked really well for me. Just something a little bit stronger, but I'm sorry, that's, yeah, you learn, right? To learn.
So what are people doing right now for the bees? Like, we probably need them fed. You feed them liquid, do you feed them?
You don't want to feed them any liquid until we're certain that we're not going to have any more cold nights.
Okay.
Because they'll drink this sugar and have it in their guts, and then they'll freeze from the inside out. And so liquid feed right now is not a good idea.
Water?
They're probably fine with water because there's snow melt, and I think they're probably fine as far as water.
The formic acid spelled F-O-R,
Formic.
oh, F-O-R,
Yeah.
F-O-R-M-I-D.
C. Formic,
Formic
Formic,
acid, where do you buy it?
acid. I just get it, yeah, or
Amazon?
I buy it at IFA.
Great.
Formic
Very good.
Pro. They
Very
used
good.
to be, there's Midaway strips are also formic acid.
What's that?
There's a product called Midaway strips.
The same thing,
Yeah, same, it's formic
mine
acid.
away, strips. This is to prevent against mites.
Yeah, you want, so Jenna Crowder, she's one of the inspectors, recommends you do I had heard something stronger in the spring and something stronger in the fall. And you want to mix up your treatments too, because the mites can become resistant.
Yeah.
So, starts with an O. Olexic?
Oxalic,
Oxalic, yeah.
yeah.
Acid. I'm thinking of getting humor, whatever. And
Yeah.
so do you know, does IFA carry that also?
I've never seen those at IFA.
What's
I bought
mine?
mine on Amazon. So something you'll learn, I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot, because a lot of us I'm not an old timer, but a lot of us who've been here a little bit have switched from, we still use oxalic acid, but we do the cellulose or Swedish dishcloths, those sponges. So there's a method, it's Scientific Beekeeper, and his method is you take equal parts of oxalic acid, it's like a crystal, the powder that you buy,
Right, yeah.
and mix that with glycerin, vegetable glycerin, and you melt that together. So I think when I do it, I think I do 500 grams of each, and you melt it on the stove just until it goes clear. You don't want to bring that to a boil because then it vaporizes and you're breathing in the fumes.
How many sponges can you put in with that
A
500?
lot. It does like a lot, like 8 sponges. Oh, I think I've done 10. And then,
The
so
full size 10?
they're like this
Yeah,
size,
yeah.
yeah. And then you cut them in, so you do your mixture, put your sponges, actually I cut my sponges in half, put them in a Ziploc bag and pour that mixture over it and just kind of squish them in there
Yeah.
and let it soak it
I
up.
did that, you told me to do.
It's great. It's super, so
Spell
you
that.
may not want to buy a vaporizer because I don't use mine anymore. I know a lot of us don't use it anymore. So it's up to you.
Do they not use it because of the cost of the fumigate?
Well, that and it's, I don't like breathing it in. You have to, yeah, it's just, this is way easier.
I've already got the mask and.
Yeah.
But it
and
doesn't-
batteries and everything, so.
It doesn't get the mites that are under cat brood where the
What's the
formic
difference between
acid
this and the other
does.
one?
So then these sponges stay in the hive for I think 30 days. Some of our members leave their sponges in all year round. So, and they just refresh them as they get dried out. Like Ron Peterson, he leaves his in all
But wouldn't
year.
that make them, you have to change treatment because they
I
get,
think, I feel like I would still want to do like a Formic Pro or like one of the, what's the
you have it
other?
in all the time, then they get.
That's what the state inspector says too. So I would, even if you're gonna put the sponges in all summer, I would still hit them with a Formic Pro or something stronger in the fall.
And when,
It's
you said
all-
spring too, when would be spring?
So just when it's warm enough, because already, so I had to have some of my bees tested
A-L-I-C.
for for Nozema about a month and a half ago.
Yes.
And mine already had,
What's that?
like,
House
she
test?
tested for Nozema, but she also, in the report, had a mite count, and I had mites in there,
They're
so.
strips.
And as they're
They're
building up
strips.
brood in the
No,
spring,
it's-
like,
Well, so
the
this
mite
is
count will
just
just
telling-
go
That's
crazy.
mixed.
You don't
There's
wanna
a
do
way
it
to mix
until
it
it's
and all
warm
that,
enough
but-
to be able to get in your hives,
Yeah.
over 50,
But I wanna get
pretty
the
consistently.
fumigator, because it only takes 1 minute.
So like soon as it warms up
Yeah,
over
you have to
50
have a
next week,
special
maybe.
mash.
I would wait until it's more consistent.
But it only takes a minute.
Because you've got to also then get back in there to take it out,
Poisonous?
I
either a
thought
week
other
or two
people
later.
wanted to.
And so
Talking about the sponges?
the Formic Pro, if you were to do something a little stronger, like a Formic Pro or
For them.
Apivar or whatever.
So I know that
You know,
Jenna,
like $2.
she told me just to leave mine, and she's okay to leave them through the
Yeah.
winter.
How much?
Yeah, it's not harming them at all.
Was that?
So, but if you were going to do something a little stronger, I would definitely wait until
But
it's
over time.
consistently warm, when you can like safely get in your hives.
So what about
Just for-
So I did a sugar board. Did you do a sugar board?
Yeah, I remember you.
As soon as we
We
have
took the other.
temperatures that are consistently, you want to get some 2-to-1 sugar on them.
Very good. 210. 262.
Because, so my bees, because last spring was a really cold and wet and cold and wet. It was the first spring that I opened up and my bees were starving. They had gone through all of their
that's what
honey.
I'm worried about?
And so that's, a lot of people will lose their bees between now and spring because they have gone through all, they can't go out to forage yet.
There's some kind of a solid sugar.
The sugar boards are there just kind of as an insurance policy and backup in case they go through all their honey. So I do that typically every winter. So I'll write the name of the, I'll sell it.
Interesting.
You can read about it.
Do you need anything?
We need to figure out how to class it.
You know, I know they did, they just skipped over all these different ways.
Everybody, I'm sorry I'm late.
You're okay.
We're glad you're here.
Hey, Daniel.
You haven't,
do you know how to help
the
him?
meeting is not over. You may regret that.
Before, and you are so along.
And all you do, I think.
I'm not, what are you trying to hook up, Mike?
My computer.
There's another one that uses the battery
Thinking about when they hear what we have to do early. Yep, that's me.
Although my screen's not on.
That would be me.
Yeah, we have it down there, right there. Looks like it'll take that shot. Maybe we should just take the picture. So we gotta get where the fuck about right here.
This is,
Right here. The middle one, the update one. Maybe that's the wrong.
Who's want to talk about farm field?
You? How about it?
Time's up.
While I try to figure out how to get hooked up here.
Is it just about right there?
If you need more time, just tell me straight.
This is a lot of rest.
All right, I think let's get going. So, my name's Cole Davis, and I've been asked to head up the effort for Farm Field Days. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
I'm sorry,
Where's
what?
that again?
Farm Field Days.
Where's that again?
It's going to be at Harwood Farms down in Springville, and in the fall, we'll have the same thing at the Equestrian Center in Highland. Harward.
Harvard.
You see their stands all over in the fall with fruit in them, Harwood fruit stands?
Yeah.
That's them. So how many people know what Farm Field Days is that we hold at Harwood? Nobody? There's got to be somebody. Okay, so every spring and every fall, the Utah County Beekeepers Association sets up a little demonstration booth for grade school students. I think they're 7 years old, and we have somebody from the club there to represent it. And we'll supply you with a little, not handouts, but some displays, things to show. I show up, usually me and my daughter show up in a bee suit or have one that they can see. And they sit these kids on these little buckets, and you've got 5 minutes to tell them everything you know about bees.
Yeah, right.
While you're trying to teach a bunch of 7-year-olds. It's a little bit like a dumpster fire. But they are totally thrilled. Now the process they go through, they get to see the tractors, and they get to see some dogs work with sheep, and they have a demonstration from the Dairy Association and from the Extension Service, and there's all different kinds of representatives. You're one small part of that. And they unload buses, and these little groups of high energetic kids come through, and you teach them anything they want to know about bees, which is very, very rudimentary. So we have a sign-up sheet here. It has the days and the date and a name and a phone number and an email. Even if you signed up already, fill in the parts that are missing. And if you want to learn more, you can team teach. I do it with my daughter because she's smart and I'm handsome. Yeah? Whatever, it works out.
It's very fun.
But anyway, so this year, well, last year we had actually a demonstration hive, a live demonstration hive. And that is really, really hard on the bees this time of year. So this year, we've done a little bit different. I have actually contacted a place in Canada, and they have some pictures that they've made that fit frames. And so we'll have a demonstration of what a beehive looks like. And it goes everywhere from wax to brood. It's actually pretty cool. And so I think, again, if you're right, I think the club is going to buy these. And so you could use them for demonstrations and scouts, your church groups or whatever. They're also going to be available. And this box of 10 frames has nothing but healthy hives, pictures of a healthy hive. I also have a set of 10 more pictures and another box that's all of the diseases. It's got American foul brood, European foul brood, waxwing moth, what a robbed panel looks like, and those are very useful for the club here. So maybe while Mike's doing his thing, I might go out and get that other frame and load up. I'm going to put them on the back table, so if you need a break, please go back there and take a look. Just be mindful of the noise you make on the video. So do you have any questions about the Farm Field Days?
What is this again? I mean.
So it's an opportunity for 7-year-olds that are in 2nd grade. They take them out to a farm and kind of show them how everything works. The animals, the feed, the babies, the growth, how the whole farm thing works. And bees are a very important part of that. Most farmers either keep bees or hire people to keep bees for them.
Okay, it's for the little kids.
It's for little children. You won't be teaching anybody that's smarter than you, I guarantee it.
Thanks.
It is a challenge to try to teach them within 5 minutes.
Yeah, and what's fun is you can automatically tell who the good teachers are and who the marginal teachers are by how the kids act. We had one class that was absolutely phenomenal. I was blown away how good these kids were. And the very next class, I was lucky to get out of there alive. It was pandemonium. Anyway, it is a lot of fun. It's really good.
We teach
teachers
Keep
inherit a
talking.
lot of the children's behavior though.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Like eighth
And my
graders.
daughter's a school teacher, so I understand that fully. Yeah, and my wife works at school. Anyway, if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to get with me. And remember to go out and take a look, or go back and take a look at these. Don't go home without it. Okay, any more questions? Thank you.
All right.
Will this PowerPoint show up on the club website?
No,
Oh,
this is, Jen, if we, somehow we would need to try to figure out, because I've downloaded this, so this is not something that's going to be, I mean, it's there, I just don't know how to get it.
You can download it as a PDF.
I have to ask Shelley.
Okay, yeah, we'll ask Shelley about this.
that we don't have to write so much.
We want to do this, and then how do I get just to the big screen without the crap? Does anybody know how to do this?
Go slideshow,
Slideshow.
just go slideshow there.
Bottom,
Over.
bottom right, there's a little icon.
Bottom right. Is that it? Slideshow. There we go. Okay, so I am not tech savvy, as you can tell. If you don't know me, I'm Mike Schaefer. This is
Good life. Look good there.
9 or 10 years, or starting tonight, starting 10th, I'm not 100% sure. I run typically screen to bottom boards. Oh, by the way, this is Zoe. Hey, get back over here.
Joey
Come on, hey.
She's the welcoming committee.
got lost. Yeah,
Thank you, good girl.
Everglades.
Down, down. I run screen bottom boards. I am a huge advocate of ventilation. So if you've got a solid bottom board, I'm not saying it's bad, just make sure when it's starting to get hot, and we're gonna pretend we're a double deep, okay? Make sure you elevate that just slightly. We don't want to encourage robbing, but we do want to encourage some ventilation in the hive. This can be done with nickels, it can be done with popsicle sticks. Understand the bees will close it down with propolis if by chance they are not liking that amount of ventilation. So kind of pay attention to what's going on. Your entrance is going to be important on how much you have here. Robbing is going to occur more than likely probably in August, September. That's when you're really going to start to see some robbing. I'm going to get into a little bit of what may occur with a late season swarm. And it could be because you've got a robbing event going on and the bees are just really, they don't have any defense. They can't defend that area, so it's not really a swarm as much as an absconsion. The bees just totally abandon the hive. It's similar to what a swarm is, but not exactly. Wasp nest. Nice. Put that over there.
So it's because of different reasons. It's because of a different reason.
It's because of a different reason. A swarm, so this gets into prevention, okay? Swarms occur in the spring, early summer, because the natural idea behind any species is to propagate, correct? Okay, so queen bee, she lays some queen cells and she bounces, and she takes about 50 to 60% of her bees with her. The remaining 50 to 40% remain in the hive. Okay? Everybody following me on this? Okay. In this hive at this point now, we have no queen, but we have queen cells. They're then going to create, or that queen cell will mature. You'll probably have anywhere from, I don't know, it's hard to say how many queen cells you'll have in there, but there's going to be enough that they can create a new queen. Those queens are going to go through, the early ones that mature and get out of their queen cell, they're going to go around and they're going to chew at the bottom of the other queen cells. And then they're going to sting that queen inside and kill that queen inside the cell. If they have the opportunity, that's what's going to happen. Otherwise, it's going to be a fight to the death outside of the queen cell. These are virgin queens. At that point, then that winner, theoretically, is going to fly out, and she's going to mate with anywhere from 10, 15 males.
How far out does she usually fly out?
Not far. She doesn't want to go too far from that hive.
Is it males within the hive?
No. It could be. It could be. But typically it's going to be whatever male. I can't remember exactly how far up they fly. I think it's about 75 feet
75 feet is all?
in the air. And they'll fly around.
Right.
And other drones will latch on to her, deposit genetic material, and it's kind of like praying mantis. They don't. The queen doesn't turn around and chew the head off, but the male dies because of the mating process.
How
But
do you tell the difference between a swarm and a queen mating?
okay.
Or swarm?
That's going to be a little difficult because a lot of the bees that are in here are going to go out with her basically as protection.
Sure.
And that, hey, we want to make sure you make it back here, so we're going to make
So-
sure you come back.
If we see a swarm outside, do you just assume that it's a swarm and you go put them in another, because you don't want to lose your swarm. You want to put it in a bee box. Or do you just kind of watch for a little bit and see what happens, whether they go back in or if they're, what do you do? What's your advice?
If they're just hanging on, it depends on the time of year, because you also have to deal with bearding, okay, when the bees get too hot.
Right.
So that's something that I was getting back to ventilation, making sure that you've got a good ventilated hive, because as the bees get hot in the evening, they're going to come out and they're going to want to have a beer and they're going to want to chill on the front porch, okay? And there'll just be a clump of bees on the front of this in August and July, early September. And it will look like, okay, they're going to bounce, but in reality, they're just hot. They're just trying to cool off. So if you see a lot of that occurring repetitively, I would encourage you to start trying to, get some ventilation. Lift this up with some nickels, some popsicle sticks, some paint sticks. You don't want to go too thick. If you get too much space in between this box and this box, other bees can come in here and they can start robbing it and they'll piss them off and they'll abscond. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead.
So I've heard that the queen cells, if they're on the top bar, I don't know, but if they're on the bottom, does that mean they're gonna swarm? And the
All right.
top is they're just replacing the queen? Or is it the other way around?
You're on to what's correct. I run mostly raw foundation, so I'm sorry, most of my frames are empty. I did bring one that's got a foundation. Most of your queen cells are gonna be across the top, the sides, the edges. And those are gonna be swarm cells. This is springtime. Occasionally, if you're having a bad queen and they're going to do a supersedure cell, they will, anywhere in this frame, pick an egg, around, and they'll make what's called a supersedure cell, because they don't like the queen or the queen is dead. Does that make sense to everybody?
So if the queen's laying it, she's gonna lay it on the sides, you call that the
Yeah.
top?
Yeah, this is the top, this is the bottom,
Okay.
and these are
So
sides.
she's gonna lay on the side, the bottom,
Yes.
and if it's just random? the
If it's
worker
just
will-
random, if you see a boatload here and then a couple here, it's still a swarm cell.
Okay,
But in, midsummer, late summer, fall, if you see them out here and they're actually capped, there's a problem with your queen. She's either dead or they're about ready to kill her.
What do you mean capped? Just,
cover it over.
Covered over. It's fully, now, you will see occasionally, and this is something you need to remember, you'll occasionally see a peanut little coming out of this area. Look inside of it. If it has an egg in there, if it has royal jelly in there, more than likely it's going to be capped, it's going to become a queen, and there's a problem. But a lot of times it's just going to be an empty peanut. There's not going to be anything up inside of it. So you got to look down in, get the sun behind you, so that you get a good amount of light. If you're old like me and you need readers, put them on. Look down in there. See if you see that queen. See if you see royal jelly.
How do you know if it's royal jelly?
yeah.
It's white.
It's white.
White, okay.
Yeah. It's going to be a it's either going to look like a dry cell or it's going to look like a wet cell. But if it looks like it's got wet snot in the bottom of it and a worm, it's going to be a queen.
So what's the difference between the superseder you were talking about and then something go all the way around it?
Okay, your supersedure cells are because they don't like the queen. Your queen cups are your swarm cells because they're going to multiply.
Okay.
Typically, this is going to occur. You have a double deep, all full of bees, all full of bees.
Yeah. That's definitely.
You need to split that hive.
That's what royal jelly it looks like in a cell.
I have a question.
Yep.
So if the old queen goes out with a whole bunch of other bees when they swarm, and they have the new queen cells ready to go, and the first one will kill the others, what if that virgin queen doesn't make it back from the mating flight? Then what happens?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay? It's usually why the queen has escorts, so that they get her up into the area that she needs to be for mating, and they get her back to the hive. Okay? But there are birds, there are windshields, there are a lot of different things that could occur while she's on these mating flights. She does not make it back. At this point, you're going to wind up with a queenless hive, because the queen, the original mother queen, has already left. Okay, so she's done laying. There are no eggs in here for them to make another queen. It's one of the reasons why most of us will encourage you to start off with 2 hives. Okay, so that if by chance you have a problem with hive A, you have hive B still has a queen, you can pull a frame or two and stick into hive A. And then take some other frames and back in, backfill over here. Go ahead.
I understand that, but however, wouldn't hive A, the workers make their own queen, like they would do if
Okay,
they
you have to
were
understand.
happy?
You have to understand. Mother queen, the original queen,
She has to lay the egg first.
she has to lay the egg first.
Okay, so there's no eggs if she's
There are no
not
eggs
the-
in that
Okay, gotcha.
that are viable. They're likely. Not saying that there aren't. There likely are no eggs in that for them to realize they do not have a queen, and there's no way they're going to have time to understand that psychologically and say we need to make another queen cell.
Okay.
Because they have to be brand new eggs.
They have to be,
Brand
yeah.
new at the start, okay.
Once that egg hatches, for the first 3 days, those larvae are going to be fed royal jelly. After that 3rd day, they're going to cut them off. Once they cut that royal jelly off to that larva cannot mature the female organs and so on and so forth to actually become a queen.
Okay.
Now, understand all of your female worker bees, they can lay eggs, they do have ovaries, they have the ability, but you wind up, they cannot fertilize those eggs. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Because they've not gone out, they're not a queen,
They've
they
not
they
made it.
don't have the, for lack of a better word, they don't have the sperm sacs to retain that genetic material, okay, on a mating flight. They never went out to mate. That's not their goal. That's not their job. That's the queen's job. So they can lay an egg, but what does an unfertilized egg produce? Drones. So it's a dead hive. It's going to be a dead hive. You can save it, and then we can get into that in another time. But
Question, so you mentioned if we had 2 hives and one of the hives ends up being a queenless hive, and I had that situation last year, had a queenless hive, but I only had 1 hive. The bees ended up taking off, and the few that remained died. As a network, can we also swap boards that might have queens?
Yes.
To do that? So
Yes.
that might be a way we can support each other?
correct. So if by chance your hive does go queenless, you can, shake the bees off, get it into a sack, get it into something. Paper sack probably would be the best, so it breathes a little bit, and get it to your hive and get it in there quick, without damaging the eggs and the larvae that are in there. And typically you're going to be looking at
The hive, the second hive.
3 to 5 days before they really actually completely understand they're queenless. You've got a few more days past that to introduce another frame of bees in there with eggs for them to actually create what you would call supersedure cells at this point. They're not really supersedure cells because they're not trying. Their queen is dead. They're going to take whatever cell, whatever egg, and larva, and they're going to create a queen. But those are, like I said, those are going to be out in the field of the frame. On a true, actual swarm cell, most of them are going to be on the side and the bottom. And they may even be down right off of this bottom board of your frame.
Okay, so to backtrack. How do I tell a swarm or mating dance? How do I tell if it's a swarm or the queen's mating?
The swarm will stay together and bunch them on
That will
a,
be more than just a.
Yeah, a swarm is going to be clumped on a bush,
Okay,
clumped on a fence, clumped on the side of a car, clumped on the side of a house.
and the mating dance will be up in the air, mostly.
Yeah, you probably will not ever see an actual mating flight.
Okay. Okay.
So if you see all these queen cells.
At that point, you're basically screwed, okay? You
Should
see
you scrape
queens?
them off?
No. Psychologically, that hive is going to swarm. There is no way for you to stop it, okay? Only way you're going to stop it is by forcing that swarm to occur.
By splitting it?
By splits. Okay? So you then have to literally go in here and you have to find your queen and you have to put her in another hive. You have to actually put her in a queen cage so that she can't fly off. You have to find a frame that does not have any queen cups on it. Knock all those bees off, get that in there, and then you have to shake 50% of your bees into this hive. Okay? Now you're forcing that swarm to occur. Some of the bees are going to come back over here.
So it
With-
can be close to the other one.
It can be close, but you need to keep that queen in here. So you need to get a queen cage.
Queen boxes.
What's that?
I think I kept a couple of those little. Maybe you put them back.
So if you miss them and they do swarm, can you like just activate them like a swarm? You would
Run it
find
by me
someone.
again?
If you do miss them and they do swarm, can you just treat it like a swarm that you'd go find somewhere and try to capture?
Yeah. If you know where your bees went, yes, absolutely go catch them.
Yeah.
Okay? Dump them into another box. Hopefully they're gonna stay put. You may want to actually take one of your frames, knock all of the bees off, make sure there are no queen cups on it, and stick it in here. Because that larva, those eggs, the bees that you catch out of the tree are going to want to cover that frame. They're going to want to stay and protect those, take care of them.
Okay.
I don't know. I think my queen cage is in one of my other coats. But literally you can use one of these that your queen comes in your packages. Just get her in there. Keep your corks. Cork it. Strap it like normal when you're doing a installation. The rubber band, I don't know how many people were there on the Bee Keepers meeting. Rubber band it to the frame, keep it there so that the queen is there. Those bees aren't going to want to leave that queen. Go ahead.
So how would you be able to tell it to keep the queen separated? You said that to be able to prevent a swarm, you need to know if you have the queen, put her in that other area. But how do you find the queen?
How do you find your queen? Where's Waldo?
Hopefully it's marked, right?
Hopefully she's marked. If she isn't, do you have a mentor? Okay, we have a mentor program. I would recommend, jumping on and seeing if you can find a mentor close in your area that might be able to help you identify and see your queen, and so that you know what you're looking for. Definitely get online, look at the differences between a worker bee and a queen bee, start recognizing those, and you should be able to eventually by the behavior of the bees around the queen and by the size of the queen, I'm thinking you're gonna be able to, you know, figure that out. Now, if you wanna get fancy, there is nothing wrong with taking a little bit of hardware cloth, cutting it into a cage, and placing it over top of your queen when you find her. Okay, it's a little tricky to do. This is down and dirty exactly how I do beekeeping, so if you think I'm weird, if I don't have, you know, my tin snips, all right, fine. I don't have my tin snips, I got my razor knife.
Just fold it up.
It ain't pretty. But you press that down into the wax, that queen can't get out now. So you can come up and look at that later. Sometimes you just have to improvise on the fly. Don't be afraid to improvise. Beekeeping is not one thing always fits a perfect little square. You have to kind of sometimes think outside the box. That's why a lot of people will say, ask 10 different beekeepers how to do something and you're going to get 10 different answers. That, you know, somebody might say, well, you just made that way too big. Yep, probably. Is it going to keep that queen contained in that hive? Yeah, it's too deep. Absolutely, it's too deep. But
Just so you can hang on to her for a little.
yeah,
But find a way.
so you might have to fine tune this a little bit so that it actually fits a little bit nicer down around that queen. Once you find that queen, if you can keep her in that, on that frame, she's not going to lay any more eggs. So if you need to come on, do a brood break. Brood break because of a mite problem.
That's what
You might want to do something like this.
But make
You
sure
keep-
you secure that somehow, because I had
If
that
it's
same thing, Bruce made me one, and it fell off.
Well, ultimately, if you're pushing it up against another frame,
Oh, another frame on the other side touches it, okay.
it shouldn't fall off.
Okay.
Shouldn't fall off. Do you have rubber bands? Rubber band it in place. They're going to chew through those rubber bands, but if you get that next frame up against it, yeah, you're going to lose those bees that are there, and you may lose some bees that are over here, but she'll stay alive in there because they can still feed her through the edges and top. She can still move around, they can still attend her. Make sure if you do this, you keep her in towards the center of the hive, not out towards, you don't want it facing toward the outside. Okay, keep it towards the center of the,
How long would we keep her in that?
so if you're doing a brood break, you wanna go 7 days. Okay, and then treat for your mites. Because you're looking at about 7 days gestation time, maybe 14.
So she can be okay just in that little box for
Yep.
7 to
But she's still
14
being
days.
fed.
They'll feed
Yep.
her, they'll take care of her,
Yep.
she'll get what she needs, she just can't lay eggs.
She just can't lay any more eggs, except right where she's at, and those bees are gonna emerge. They're nurse bees, so they're gonna become attendants to her. So everybody's gonna, but you have to kind of pay attention to it. I would not just leave this for 14 days and go, oh, it's all good. I would be checking on it every other to third day, making sure your queen's okay. So getting back to swarms and what they're going to do. They're going to take off because it's a propagation of the species. They're going to fly up, they're going to land on one of these big lights, and they're going to form a clump. Let's say it's on a branch, obviously, bush, on the side of a fence, or in it to a chain link fence. There's a lot of different places that they're going to land. We're going to wind up, I'm going to wind up getting phone calls of, hey, by the way, I have swarm XYZ. Who can you come get it? That's what we're really here for, right? To learn how to catch a swarm. So there are a couple different ways to do so. Depending on where the swarm is at, I don't even know if I'm going to use this PowerPoint. I don't even know if I'm going to get this PowerPoint to come on back on. You need to be ready to go get a swarm, which means you're going to need your bottom box, your box with frames, and a top lid. Depending upon the size of the swarm, you may need a secondary box. Okay? I mean, I've seen some swarms that have been, they'll fill 2 deep boxes. So most of the time I'm going to have asked, and I'm going to say customer, and I'm just using that loosely. I'm going to ask the homeowner or the person calling me, where's the swarm at? How high up is it? Please send me some still shots of where it's at. If it's in a tree, can we cut the branch? On all of that information, I'm going to then be calling you and giving and translating that information to you. I'm going to send you some pictures. I'm going to give you an idea of where it's at and what you're up against so that you're not going out there blind. Part of what I'm trying to do is give you as much information so that you don't fail, so that you succeed in catching this swarm. But you need to be ready to go with your equipment when I call. And it's not like we don't have lives. Obviously, I was late tonight, you know. I was, for some reason, thinking the meeting was at 7:30, not 7, sorry. But being ready to go and getting it, you know, all together, that's going to be number one on your side to catch a swarm. Tools that you may or may not need. Tree trimmers, you know, pruners to cut the branch. Obviously all your bee equipment, your bottom box, boards, and that kind of thing. This is been a fantastic thing that I built. I can go up onto the branch and I can bump it and drop the bees into this bucket. I've already by that time pulled some of these frames out and I just pour the bees in here and knock them in, let it go, and then my frames go back in just like as if you were getting a package, not that, a little more gently than when I just dumped those in. But, you know, your frames go back gently in there and put your lid on, watch what happens. This, you know, is, I can get quite out, I can get out there quite a ways.
We should have that handle.
They make another pole that's even longer than this if you wanted to get that. I found this pole works really well for most of my swarms, or most swarms, huh?
Where'd you get that ball?
I got it from Sherwin-Williams.
Mike, can you talk about how you attached it?
Cast iron, basically.
Yeah, that's just could be a light socket.
It looks like a sprinkler riser.
So we'll pass it around, or we'll leave it up here, I don't know. It's a piece of OSB that I've cut in a circle, so just a piece of wood, metal flange. Yes, there's some sprinkler parts here. This is JB Weld, and I took a paint roller, cheap one, right where the metal comes out and goes up, right where that comes in contact with the handle, I cut it off and I shoved it down in here, and then I JB welded it into place. That's all this is, you know, think outside the box.
That's more complex than you say.
It just works, you know, I mean, this'll, if you want, you know, you could leave that piece attached to the pole. I'm gonna pass that around, you can kind of see what I've done. But this is just a metal flange that you can get at Home Depot. Go get that. Find a piece of ABS or PVC that's gonna screw in it from your sprinkler section. It'll screw into that.
But you don't have a hole through the bottom.
No, there's no hole in the bottom at all. So it's just a solid bucket. I have screwed, if you look, I've screwed through the bottom of the bucket into this piece of OSB that I've cut to fit the bottom of the bucket.
That's a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, very clever.
Can I just show an alternative way?
Yep.
I did something similar with my bucket. I just took a piece of PVC, just a scrap of PVC, and attached it right here. And so just screwed it in, and then of course the top has a little, a longer screw. And so I just take a pole and stick it into the PVC, because it's got a screw on the top, then it just stays. So just another way, because
It's another way. Yeah.
100, you know, you ask 100 ranchers how to raise a horse, you get 100 answers. You ask 100 beekeepers how to raise bees, you get 101 answers, because they contradict themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So that may be easier for you just to do that on the side of the bucket. I just went with the bottom, but yeah.
What height is usually the highest that you'll have to extend to? You don't,
Most of your queens are not going to go much more than about 10 to 12 feet up on a swarm. They're not gonna be real high. Now, I have had swarms that have been 35, 40 feet up. So I'm not saying it can't happen. And I will be talking, you know, to, you know, the person that I'm calling and saying, I have a swarm. Do you have the capability to get up to XYZ elevation? If you don't, thank you, next. Not that I'm trying to be rude, I'm just, you don't, great, I understand, you know, not everybody's got a 35-foot ladder. Nor do they want to necessarily go up 35 feet on that said ladder and play with bees. So this is going to be the next one of the other things that I really bring up. Know your limitations, know your comfortability on catching a swarm. I do not, no bee or no swarm is worth your life, okay? Be cognizant of your surroundings. That means the people around you, that means power lines, that means, you know, utilities of any sort whatsoever. Know what you're going to be getting into, because we don't want, you know, it's not worth getting hurt over you know, you're on uneven ground and you've got your ladder and you're on your ladder and you're up and you're gonna knock this thing in, but your ladder's unstable and you go to knock and your ladder goes like this and you wind up with a broken leg or shoulder or arm, ankle, whatever. That's an expensive swarm that you didn't really need to go get. So just be confident in what you're doing, but don't be overconfident. Swarms are not hard to catch, but you've got to be conscientious and safe. In the back of your mind is up here in the front of your mind of being safe. But a lot of people are nervous about bees, and so they're, you know, if you've got a lot of people around when you're catching one, I would suggest, you know, ask them to step back 20 feet. At least, you know, 15 or 20, well, yeah, 15 or 20 feet. Walk away. You can watch it from over there. Not saying you can't watch. If the bees for some reason get agitated, don't want to get people stung in the process of catching them. Which brings up PPE. Okay, personal protection gear. Wear it. I know there are people out there online that, oh, I'm just gonna scoop all these bees in and it's just gonna be all warm. You know what? Don't. Just don't. Okay? I have been stung and I don't like it. I can get stung, but I don't like it. Most of the time when I'm actually doing a removal from the home, I wear my PPE until 50 to 75%, maybe even almost to the very end of the removal. 95% of the time when I get stung, it's when I take it off.
Right.
Not saying that I haven't been stung reaching up into a freaking crevice and they get in here and they get pinched in between whatever I'm working on, and by gosh, this section of my arm, this section of my arm, my forearms, even through my gloves, you know, even through this, they'll sting me. And it's because I'm pressing down on them and they pop me and I'm like, okay. Swarms, I've been stung catching swarms. They drop down on my neck, they drop down on my head, and I get popped. So just because they're homeless, they're not going to be as aggressive as if you went into this hive and you just turned it upside down. But that does not mean that they will not still sting you if you wind up pinching one in the wrong way, or if I've even walked up to a swarm, dumped them in, and everything's good, take my veil off, walk back over, and I get popped because one of them is still flying around. She's pissed. For whatever reason, she's pissed. All her girlfriends are in the hive except for her, and so wear your protective gear. Just do it. Don't cheap out on it.
Do you keep yours in your truck when you're out and about?
I don't typically catch swarms. Okay, that's not my gig. My gig is to get you guys swarms.
He's the guy that would call you.
So if you don't know, I'm the swarm coordinator for the club. So if you don't have my phone number,
also at the top of the Facebook page.
Say that again so that everybody can hear you.
His number is also on the top of the Facebook page.
Mike, will you tell them how the swarm list works and about?
Yep. So, if you're going to be on the swarm list, please save this phone number. Okay? Save my name, save my phone number, because when I call you, I want it to pop up as being me, so that you know, and you might even want to tag it swarm coordinator or whatever, so that you know, hey, I need to answer this phone call. Swarm list basically works this way. You tell Jen when you're doing your membership, hey, I want to be on the swarm list, this is where I live, and these are the areas where I want to cover. Here is my cell phone. It's all right. I like this nice little ambiance.
It's not working.
Sure, where the motion.
Mike, is that an 801 area code?
Yes, 801. Sorry.
It's too dark to see it now.
Does anyone know how to work these lights?
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
An interesting little light switch.
So getting back to how the swarm list works. You're going to tell Jen, I want to be on the swarm list. You're going to give her your cell phone number, where you live, and the areas that you want to cover. Okay, so if you live on Spanish Fork, and I have a swarm in Lehigh, I'm going to look for people who lives in Lehigh. None of these people answered my phone call. Orem, Provo, I'm going to call you last because you're in Spanish Fork, not because I don't like you, it's because I know that you have to travel the most distance. But if you're the first one that answers the phone call, guess what? Hustle your butt up.
How would I tell Jen that I want to be on the list?
You can tell me after the meeting.
Oh.
Everyone can,
Okay.
you do have to be it's a.
Yeah, you do have to be a
You have
member
to be a
of the
member.
association.
How long will a storm stay in one place?
Well, that's the problem. That's why I'm not going to call somebody in Spanish Fork if I can get somebody in Lehigh, because first off, I will try to assess how long it's been there, but I don't know how long it's been there. I know that swarms will stay 15 minutes. I know that they will stay 15 days, 30 days, 45 days. They'll start building comb. Okay? So depending on when the homeowner noticed it, how long they've been there, what the weather conditions are, because if the weather conditions are kind of foul, and the bees figure they can still make a colony in this tree, they'll start laying comb, and because they're when a swarm occurs, most of the bees will gorge themselves on the stores that are in the hive, which gives them a lot of energy, and they'll start producing wax. And I don't know if you understand, most of that wax is going to come off their bellies. Well, the wax is going to come off their bellies. Not most of it. It will come off their bellies. Just little flakes right off in between the, I don't know what you call them, where it's almost like a scale on a fish. Okay? They'll open up and the wax will just ooze out of their belly. They'll take that wax and they'll start, forming comb. That's where the wax comes from. It's bee fat. So getting back to that, they're going to gorge themselves. They're going to fly off. They're going to take off, and they're going to, be ready to get going on a new colony, a new hive. If it's foul weather, they don't really want to take off and continue to fly. They may actually start building comb on that branch. So it's not unheard of to find something that's got comb there. where they've been there 3, 5, 10 days, because nobody's noticed them, and then all of a sudden they're there. I would, if that's the case, you may need to scrape that. If it's large enough, I would take that comb and I would press it into your frame, because there may actually be a few eggs in there, because the queen may have actually started to lay. So I mean, if you've got a piece that's, you know, like that, definitely cut that off, save that, and press that into your frame. You can scrape it off later if it becomes a nuisance, but that's going to also help anchor them into that colony, because they're more likely are going to be eggs on that. But typically, hopefully, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, they notice it within a few hours. They call me up, I call you up, and you may get up there and they may have flown the coop. It's happened. I have no control over what they're going to do. I'll apologize for it right now, but I have absolutely no control over how long they will stay there. So time is kind of an evanescence. Don't speed to get there, but don't. If you say you're going to go. Don't wait 2 hours and then go. If you're going to wait 2 hours, please let me know. I'll see if I can get somebody else to go. Yep.
So once you caught them, they're in your deep boxes, how do you transport them from there? Like, do you just put them in the back of the truck? Or do you, I don't know.
Call an Uber.
Call 2 Ubers.
One for you and one for the bees.
That's right.
I would say a ratchet strap is going to be an essential tool. Get them in here, get your lid on there, strap it down, and then if you can, I would come back at dusk. Just let them settle in. The bees that are up there on that branch, they're going to fly back up there because the pheromone of the queen is up there. If you're allowed to cut the branch, leave the branch down near the front of the hive. Bees are going to go in. The goal is to get the majority of the bees. So the longer you can leave this hive sitting there on the ground, the better, because you're going to get more bees in there. Come back, like I said, you've got your ratchet strap, pick it up.
What about the entrance?
I'm getting there.
Okay, just
Relax.
sorry.
Close your entrance off. Some 3/4 inch stock, and close it off. This one's a little small, so I do a lot of different things. You can use some hardware cloth. Again, taking the hardware cloth, ventilation's important, close it off. Obviously end to end. But you don't want to wind up cooking your bees. So you get home, put the bees where you're going to have them, and open that entrance back up. Take some grass off the ground, stuff it in your entrance, some twigs. Let them dig that out tomorrow morning, because that's going to force them to reorient to where this is at. Also, if you happen to get a swarm and you live 2 blocks away from it, you may have some drift from this hive back to the original hive, because they still remember where home is at. If you're about 3 miles away from where the swarm is at, you're really probably not going to have as much of an issue. Bees typically, they're only gonna fly about 3 miles away from home. So more than likely, if you're a mile or 2 away from the home, they've already decided they're gonna swarm, you give them a good place to live, they're gonna be happy. Part of giving them a good place to live, feed them. Okay, they're gonna be hungry and they're gonna be wanting to build a lot of wax, they're gonna be wanting to build up quick and so on and so forth. So on a swarm, it's important to feed just like on a regular package. A 1-to-1 mixture of sugar water, pollen patty. If you have a secondary hive and you can pull a frame of brood out and put it in there with them, knock those bees off back into the original hive. Don't make them mad. Put that empty frame, brood and stuff, put that in there with them. That's going to help also anchor them here.
Lemongrass drops.
Okay, lemongrass is going to be something that, yes, you can do a little bit of lemongrass into the hive. As you can tell, I've got a conglomerate of stuff in my box. So I have a little small vial of lemongrass, I've got Q-tips, and I'm going to pass this around. Please don't open it up, but look inside. You're going to see queens. So there is a thing called Swarm Commander. That is basically queens that have been smashed up, ground up, whatever, how, I don't know. I've never used Swarm Commander, but what it boils down to is it has that queen pheromone in it. So if you're trying to catch a swarm in a tree, I'm going to back that up. You're familiar with hive or somebody that's not paying attention to their hives, okay? Not recommending that you necessarily do this, but if you find a feral hive, we're just going to say it's a feral hive. You can take a box about this size, a couple frames of, well, like 1 frame of honey, 2 frames of drawn out comb, and maybe a frame or 2 of just plastic foundation. Make sure it's waxed, it's quite dry. Make sure it's waxed fairly well. Stick that in there, a little bit of your queen pheromone, some lemongrass on a Q-tip, drop down in here or sitting on top of the frames. And take a staple gun, staple it there if you want. Drop that down in there, and now all of a sudden that smells good to bees. So when a swarm occurs, we're out, the bees have flown the coop, that's it. And all of a sudden, they land on a branch. Nobody's paying attention to it, nobody notices it, and so they start sending out what's called scouts. Those scouts go start looking for some place to build a new colony. Well, lo and behold, here's this bait hive. That's what it's called. It's a bait hive. It's got, you know, some stores in there, some pollen in there, drawn out comb, a little empty space, good place to build. And the drones go back and they do their little waggle dance and they say, hey, come, let's check this out. And so then they start really checking it out, and then the swarm flies over, and you've now caught the swarm without having me call you. Follow me?
So are the drones the scouts?
No. Drones don't do anything but mate with the queen. They are nothing but a drain on the hive, ultimately.
After they've done their duty.
Well, no.
They die.
before they do duty, because when they do their duty with the queen, they're dead.
Oh,
So, the scouts are gonna be the female bees, and they're gonna go out and they're gonna be looking around for a new place to live. Part of, my thing with bees, and I'll be happy if you have a situation, and I'm gonna throw this out there. If you have a situation where you have a friend that says, hey, I've got bees in my house, or I send you out to a swarm and they've actually moved into the house. My portion of beekeeping really begins or is relative to removing those bees from the house. Okay? So whomever's helping me, they get the bees. So if you have something, like I said, I send you out on a swarm and they've actually moved in, call me back up, we'll make an arrangement with the homeowner, we'll get the bees out of the home. It's not a free service, I do charge for that, but I'm more than happy to make sure that you get the bees and whatever. Primarily, I'd much rather see you guys getting the bees before they move into the homes, okay? Most areas where I have bees get into structures, gas lines, air conditioning line sets, exhaust fans, and soffits. Those are the 4 spots, mostly air conditioning lines and gas lines. Apartment complexes, they're notorious for their exhaust fans off their bathrooms. The little vents, the little flappers, they let them dry out, they flake off, birds go in there, birds scratch, they chew through that flex line, bees come in and make a hive inside the floor chase. Soffits, it's kind of one of those things where the actual soffit metal was not cut properly or something happened and there's a gap up in there, and it's a good place. I did one at a can't tell you exactly where, but I will tell you it was a drug rehab center, and there was a swimming pool, and it was almost a $5,000, well, I think it was over a $5,000 bill, because I had to get structural engineered scaffolding up built to get up to where they were at, and they were 40 feet up in the air. It took me 3 days to get them out. It took me almost a month and a half to organize it to get, actually it might have been a little longer than that, but it was at a drug rehab center, and it was a very exclusive one, and heaven forbid Johnny or Jane gets stung by a bee. So they were willing to hop through the hoops, which was great, but it took me 3 days to get them out.
So, if you're cutting into the structure of buildings, do you have some?
Do not do it if
No,
you're not
you.
licensed.
You.
Yes.
I was wondering what licenses you have for that.
I'm a licensed general contractor, and I'm insured.
Okay.
I've cut into situations where there has been 3 main trunk high voltage lines, 4 other 110 lines, and approximately 10 radiant heat floor lines, all in the same floor chase. And if somebody would have cut into that didn't know what they were doing, it would have been an absolute nightmare for the homeowner. So please do not, just call me. Just call me. It's not worth the headache to you, and it's not worth the liability to you or the homeowner to do something improperly. I know some beekeepers that want to go through the exterior of the home in order to catch bees. I'm like, so if they're 4 or 5 feet into the home, how are you getting in there? You just went through their brick, you just went through their rock, and you can't even get them all out. call me.
So
We'll do it properly, we'll do it safely, we'll do it, ethically, and we'll get the bees, the homeowner will be happy at the end of the day, and we won't have problems.
So did you get into beekeeping through your general contractor job? Like you?
No. No, I got into beekeeping prior to that. It just has kind of developed into, with me becoming a beekeeper and becoming a general contractor, that it just kind of melded well. It's just the way it worked. It wasn't that I deliberately went that direction. So I didn't even know when I started bees whether or not I would keep them. The reason I got into bees was my grandfather was a beekeeper and a couple other reasons, but yeah, that's ultimately why I got into beekeeping. One of the base reasons anyway, but it had nothing to do with ultimately wanting to do extractions out of houses. When I started thinking about that, I got scared, honestly. Like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? And how am I gonna do this? It's just, so that was not the reason I got into beekeeping, was to do that. But it's a service thing to help.
Can I ask a couple questions
Yep.
about the bait hive? Could you use that to attract a swarm?
Yes, that's exactly what a bait hive is to do,
Okay.
is to attract that swarm.
Okay.
It may even be your own.
Yes, it may even be your
You may be able
own.
to catch if your hive swarms and you have a bait hive in your yard, you can catch your own. It's good.
Yeah. I actually literally have set up and done that of, catching my own hive or my own swarm.
So when you have to do all the hard stuff in the house, does the homeowner have the option of just killing them with
Sure.
whatever they use to
The
kill bees?
the problem with that is once they've moved in,
More will come.
they have built wax, they have stores in there, so honey and pollen. And yes, you kill the bees, but all that stuff is still there. I did a removal about little over a month and a half ago, surprisingly enough. Bees were dead, but they did not deal with it back in August, July, September, whenever they noticed it. They just ignored it. Well, the bees died. It was a west-facing structure on a parrot wall. Do you know what I mean by a parrot wall? Okay, so you've got a deck at the top of the building, and then you still have another 4-foot wall so that people don't walk off the side, okay? This is called a parrot wall. They were in this wall. This was west-facing, brick face. The bees were back here. They roasted. All of the comb dropped to the bottom. Killed them. But all that wax and everything collapsed in the heat, released all that honey. A month and a half ago, they called me out. We've got honey leaking all over this wall and down this. I mean, it went from the deck, through the bedroom, into the kitchen, and onto the countertop. That's how much leaked down.
Oh my, that's a lot of honey.
It was. It was a mess. A sticky, ugly mess that, if they would have called me to begin with, I could have gotten them out. We could have sealed the entrance up, but they didn't.
Is that what you do? I mean, like, okay, you got a bunch of bees in there, you're just getting the bees out, you leave all the other stuff in there? Or you gotta get
No,
all
all
that
of that comes out.
You gotta get all of that
All
out.
of that comes out.
Say that.
That's why I'm saying to her, yes, the homeowner has the option to just do an extermination. However,
They get rid of all the stuff.
you've left all of it. Getting back to what I was saying Saturday at the beginning beekeepers meeting, why do I want to move into an empty house when I can move into a furnished house? Okay? So if the homeowner exterminates them 2 years later, they didn't seal anything up. They've had mice in there, they've had ants in there, they've had wax moth in there, and what a mess. And now all of a sudden that pheromone is still in there, and now here comes another swarm. and they move right back in. And I've had homeowners that have been in this situation where, yeah, we noticed these bees and they were there and they weren't really bugging us, and they went away. Last year they came back. And it's a repetitive thing. It goes through cycles. So this is kind of off topic of catching a swarm and so on and so forth. But I'm just saying, if that's the case, just killing them is not going to be the solution to the end-all problem. You need to seal that house up. You need to get all that resource out. Let's say you've got this swarm that I call you up on, and it is in this really dense bush. And it's really brushy, or maybe it's on a chain link fence. I am not a big fan of bee brushes, except for brushing bees off of a fence. They do not like these things, especially the nylon ones like this. I don't think I've hardly ever used this thing. As you can tell, it's almost brand new, and I've had it for about 9 years. Still has the tag on it. That's how much I've used it. But you can brush those bees off. It'll stir them up, shake them down into your box, and continue. Another option you can do is a bee vac. You can come up and look at this. This has a diaphragm right here that's screwed in place. This is where I actually put the bee, or the vacuum plug, and then another hose comes off here. I have a throttle at the top so I can adjust how hard it's sucking. Bees go into this container. They're separated. They can't make it into the vacuum. Okay?
Can we see what the inside of that looks like?
Yep.
How well do they like that?
So
Don't suck hard.
I do not use this when I'm doing extractions from a home, but I use a very similar device.
Okay.
So
But as far as a swarm
goes, is if it's where you can't get them out of there, yes, you can do this. It's a pretty humane way to get them out. It typically will not kill them. And so yes, you can. If you get into a situation where you need to borrow this, I'll be more than happy to let you borrow it. So if it's and I'll kind of already be talking to you about, hey, I'm pretty sure you may need a bee vac. Do you have one? If you don't, come get mine. This is another option in a pinch. This bucket's got a whole bunch of holes drilled in it. It's ventilated pretty well. I'm in a bind. I've got to get these bees. I knock them in here. Set this off to the side just a little bit so that the bees can get in there, and you can transport them that way. Ventilation, ventilation, ventilation. Do not just put them in a 5-gallon bucket, close it up, and expect those bees to survive.
Did you drill all those holes?
Yes, I did, one by one.
In other words, you can't buy one like that.
No, you cannot buy one like that, but you can buy a drill and a drill bit and go to town. I think I'm about out of time, yes? Okay, who are my bad kids in here? Come on up. Any other bad kids? You? One for you. They are sharp, okay? So be careful with it. I'm gonna let you, there's 2 more, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are their tools.
Yep, those are tools.
Okay, I will be at the back if you want to be added to the swarm list, or if you have already told me you're on the swarm list, maybe just tell me where you want to, because some people have said yes, but I need to know like areas.
Yeah.
I'll be on the back.
One other thing you could possibly Be quick. If they keep going up to that same branch, if you have a bottle of this, spray the branch.
What is that? What is that?
It's Be Quick. They don't really like it. It'll force them away from that. So it's one of the things we use when we're doing a harvest, bee harvest, honey harvest. Spray it across the board. It's felt, and it forces the bees away from that.
They have stops. The honey box.
Thank you.
Oh! Everybody wanted to see my water bucket, my watering bucket? It's up front.
You have, I filled that thing out online Monday.